And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather for Saturday morning. Got a lot of IFR with a system coming across the Bering Sea here, with IFR advancing all the way into the Alaska Peninsula, trailing on back to the west there. But conditions not too bad over the interior. Some lower conditions here over the Kuskokwim Valley, possible IFR there, as well as up over the Yukon Flats. And then an area of marginal VFR, Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast, North Gulf Coast into the Gulf of Alaska, VFR, Kodiak marginal, Southern Panhandle, marginal VFR. And then for the afternoon time, some moisture spreads on up from southeast to northwest here, bringing IFR there for the extreme northern Panhandle area, with mostly marginal conditions down to the south. We've got marginal VFR in the afternoon there across the Alaska Range and portions of the Kuskokwim Valley. Still marginal for the Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast. VFR here, western interior into Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, all of south central Alaska, most of the Copper River Basin. Marginal VFR for the Bering Sea, with some IFR weakening system here washing out over the Alaska Peninsula there for some, again, mostly on the north coast of the peninsula will be the IFR area. And some IFR here for mostly around Adak and Atka, marginal conditions elsewhere. And then for the afternoon, that area kind of bulges back up to the north here, looking at IFR from Adak eastward to Unalaska, and otherwise marginal for the Bering Sea, improving VFR back west of Amchitka Island, and good VFR here for the Kodiak Island zone up into Prince William Sound, Mananuska-Susitna Valley, much of the western interior, in fact, all the way up from Bristol Bay to the Brooks Range there. Now IFR over the North Slope area, and some IFR here, mostly along and north of the Alaska Range and the Upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country areas. And for the southeast coast, not a bad day for the afternoon, or not with marginal VFR breaking out over the central and southern areas. Still some lower conditions up toward White and Chilkoot and White Passes. And for the afternoon time frame, Sunday here, we've got IFR pushing into the southwest coast now with good VFR, interior Alaska, still some marginal VFR here over in the east side. Marginal VFR also from the North Slope and the Arctic coast, but not quite as extensive. Looks like most of the Brooks Range will be VFR. Panhandle, good VFR, westward across the Gulf to Kodiak Island. And some IFR here for the eastern Aleutians up to the Alaska Peninsula. Passes for Saturday. And in Tuvik-Nadigan, look for mostly marginal VFR conditions there for both passes. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, occasional marginal VFR at times tomorrow and into tomorrow afternoon. Same forecast for rainy, marginal for windy. And for Isabel, starting out VFR, but marginal VFR in the afternoon. And Mentasta, deteriorating to IFR possibly in the afternoon hours. And for Tanita, VFR, Portage, VFR, Chilkoot and White, VFR becoming IFR. And for the freezing levels here at about 2,000 feet here, right along the North Gulf Coast and across the northern Panhandle area, with at the surface here, right along the southwest coast, Nunivak Island, and up along the North Gulf Coast for tomorrow morning, but much warmer conditions back out over the Aleutians, 8 to 10,000 feet there. Icing, not too much to look at here over in mainland Alaska. A couple of areas of possible light to isolated moderate rime icing for the central Aleutians. Alaska Peninsula, more extensive area here for the southeast coast from about Yakutat or so all the way down toward Dixon Entrance. And the jet stream, northwest winds here at about 60 knots through the central interior areas. Otherwise, the stronger winds out here over the Bering Sea. Westerlies turning northwest 115 to 120 knots there across the Alaska Peninsula. And at 9,000 feet, southwest turning west to northwest there across the Bering Sea at anywhere from 40 to 50 knots. Lighter over the northern Bering and light and variable winds over interior Alaska into the Gulf. The southeast coast with a couple of low centers here, we've got 40 knot winds there picking up over the southern areas as high as 55 knots. And at 3,000 feet, 55 knot winds there coming into the Dixon Entrance area and around Prince of Wales Island with 35 knot winds up along the coast. Light over the mainland areas And not too bad in the Aleutians. We've got westerlies at about 40 knots for Adak and Atka, northwest 35 across the Alaska Peninsula. And moving on to the turbulence graphic, we'll see with those windy conditions, we've got isolated moderate turbulence forecast possibly for the Alaska Peninsula, westward Adak and Atka, then another round coming into Shimi and Attu, and some mechanical turbulence also possible for the Barren Islands, Fognak Island, and the Chiniak-Marmot Bay areas of Kodiak there. Moderate, pretty likely there with the stronger winds for Prince of Wales Island.